Good evening and welcome to another edition of our weekly Business and Finance Outlook with yours truly, Joel Bhagwandin. Today I have a very important guest joining me to discuss some important events and activities that occurred recently. Um, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, who is the Chief Investment Officer for the Guyana Office for Investment, which is a government agency responsible for promoting investments and the agency responsible for administering fiscal incentives for all the various sectors and facilitating investment promotion activities and so on. So, today we want to focus on recently, you would note from the news that we've had a series of activities. We had, just within a couple of months, we hosted the AgroInvest Forum. Then there were some other activities regionally and internationally where our president, His Excellency, attended and would have promoted Guyana. And more recently, there was a similar forum in Trinidad and Tobago where Dr. Ramsaroop is just returning from, as well as His Excellency. So the context of this forum, as we know, the broad context, led by Guyana, by our leadership, our regional import bill, we've been saying for a long time, our food import bill is somewhere around $10 billion, which is greater than our GDP. And the president has launched a strategic agenda to reduce this regional import bill by 25% by 2025. In previous programs, we have discussed this. We talk about what this means, how we're going to achieve it. We talk about some of the initiatives being undertaken. And so this event is an action, part of the action plan to achieve that goal. So, Dr. Ramsaroop, tell us, we see what the government is doing. We see, like today I was telling somebody, someone asked me, how could our economy reach $1 trillion US economy? And I was explaining to them, our geography, our population size, it'll take us a long, long time to get to that level. However, we're experiencing rapid growth. And they would have asked about this whole, I was explaining how do we all these agenda fit into reducing the cost of living in terms of guarding against external shocks. We have imported inflation because we're not producing most of the goods we consume. So, and I said to the person that, look, having a good agenda, a good objective, a good policy with good intention is good. But to achieve it, you have to back it up by policies, you have to back it up by initiatives, and you have to make investments. So, for example, if we're going to push agriculture and we're going to commercialize agriculture, we got to have incentives to stimulate and to attract investment in the sector. We got to have a market. Now, we know where the market is. The market is there. So we got to have coordinated investments. We got to make those investments, attractive. Then we have to build out the infrastructure to accommodate it, logistics, transportation. We got to build a farm-to-market access road and so forth. So, coming out of all these events, Dr. Ramsaroop, could tell us a little bit give us an overview of what happened in Trinidad, what were some of the responses, what is the feeling, and let's take it from there.
Well, Joel, thanks for letting me on the program. And, I must say to the public, very impressed with your analysis over the years and your analysis on the economy in Guyana. It's really helped position many, both government and private sector, in understanding where the nation is from an economics perspective.
Thank you.
But specifically, it's but positioning. You mentioned the import bill upwards of $10 billion for the Caribbean, CARICOM area. And as you look at our president leadership in positioning Guyana to be able to deliver, along with CARICOM leaders, he's very team player in his build out. But when you look at the investment in agriculture and you do a T table with this 10 billion, you have to then add some other numbers. It's 32 million people visit the Caribbean every year as tourists. So we're feeding them, yeah, among our population. So, in positioning the 25 by 25 initiative, Guyana is poised to be that super leader within the context of agriculture. Now, the president has even broadened that to Barbados being the food hub, the food terminal. Trinidad, as we know, have gas and they have a cheaper energy, and now he's tied it to northern Brazil, right? So northern Brazil have excess agriculture products too. What if they were to bring it over the border and do the agro processing in Guyana? And then tie it to our logistic chain, ultimately to the deepwater harbor. So the exciting component of the non-oil industry in Guyana is agriculture. And I believe as he positioned Guyana, that will become probably one of our fastest growing sector over the next 5 years. And you mentioned earlier, it goes with a lot. It's not just about the mega farms. It's not just about agro processing, and agro processing will come with cheaper energy.
Right.
It is about the logistics. So with the deepwater harbor, the road to Brazil, the logistics connection, that is a whole sector that Guyana doesn't know yet and understand fully what it means, but there's a whole new sector in the making. So that's why you see so many folks from an investment standpoint, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, the Americans, the Europeans, all starting to look at Guyana differently. And they're not looking at the oil and gas. They're looking at these sectors to see where an investment can fit. So these forums that we've been going to, really, the Trinidad was a state visit. The president, spent a lot of time with Prime Minister Rowley and the team looking at the opportunities. Prime Minister Barbados was there and looking at specific opportunities, how the region will benefit. And as for Guyana, if I'm listening to myself and I'm out there, wait a minute, what do I need to do? If I'm good at agriculture and I have the ability to land, why not form consortiums like the soybean folks did and put together a plan? People, the economics. If a village gets together and says, we have the best soil for Bora, and instead of one villager planting Bora, one villager planting Okro, let's all get together and says, we're going to be enterprise, the Okro village for Guyana. Then the economies of scale make sense.
Right.
Now I go and I'm picking up one stop. I can move it into agro. I can get it shipping. So I think the president's bold vision and his strategy in positioning Guyana to lead this effort is actually right, because we are the only country in CARICOM that can lead the effort. And again, is putting a team player approach to it. Each one of us in CARICOM has a role to play in bringing this supply chain to the table.
Definitely. And if I'm to just to bring in a little bit of political economy context, you talk about positioning Guyana. Before the elections in 2020, several months before, I wrote a paper talking about the geopolitical, which I presented at a conference, talking about the geopolitical importance of Guyana. And any leader, any government would have to be very foolish to not understand that with the change in dynamics in terms of a balance of power, political power, economic power, with what we have offshore, to leverage that level of power to lead change in the region would have to be foolish. And so it presents, for years, being part of the private sector and being part of the private sector support organizations like the Private Sector Commission and the Chamber of Commerce. For decades, I hear people complaining, I joined it, so I hear these complaints are decades old about mistreatment at CARICOM, about barriers to trade, about countries not adhering to the CSME rules. You're getting a difficult time to export a simple thing like honey into some countries, the red tape. So why was that? The reason for that is because we didn't have the economic power and geopolitical power we had then that we have now. Back then, another country held that power. Now there is a change in dynamics. Now, does that mean are we going to displace that country? Or are we going to strategically use the power that we have, leverage it to achieve true regional integration so that everybody wins? Trinidad wins, Barbados win, everybody win in CARICOM.
And that's the goal of Dr. Ali. I mean, if you watch exactly when you sit in the meetings, he called it the coalition of the willing. Is yes, if we're going to do this together, if there's a tariff here or a tariff there, is custom rules that needs to change to ensure that it's an efficient process that we're doing, that's what these leaders have committed to. And that's what is exciting about this whole initiative. It's a very good, powerful joint effort. But from a individual perspective, just looking at Guyana, that's where our local private sector or local investors or people as a whole need to figure out, and I always say this every time I get to speak, you need to figure out where you fit.
Right.
And
correct.
Politics shouldn't determine where you fit. Right. Don't let any opposition politician tell you don't participate in government development, because you will lose out. Guyana is for everyone, and the president is ensuring on his One Guyana policy that his index, that his measurement of success is the prosperity index level of each of us move up. And that's how he measures whether or not the policies are working. So we need folks to when they look at your analysis and understand where Guyana is going, the question at home should be, where do I fit? If I'm a farmer, if I'm a logistics, if I'm a supplier, if I'm a food person, how do I fit and be part of this development? Because we're moving at a rapid, transformative pace. I sit in my office, Joel, and sometimes I think I'm making this thing up. When I tell people, no matter what you think, no matter what your grandparents thought or your parents thought Guyana should look like, it will look like. Right? So if you thought we should have these big buildings, well, we're going to have it. If you thought we should be the breadbasket of the region, and why are we not there? We're going to be there. If you think we should be the logistics hub that Brazil needs to use our water, we will be there. You think I can get to Bartica in less than an hour driving? It will happen. Right? Airport in 20 minutes. So it's if you put that lens on, and you get out of political discussion, I think you will find that all of this that we talk about it's for each of us to benefit from it.
It's a collective effort.
Yes.
All of us have to participate in it. And the question we have to ask, as you rightly put it, where do I fit? What do I have to do to prepare myself, equip myself? The president made some commitment, which he made to Barbados as well, and he made a similar commitment, which is a renewed commitment in the case of Trinidad, because where he said, we're willing to make land available for agriculture for Trinidad. Now, that is not a new commitment. I could recall that when this government was in office in its previous term, pre-2015, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is around 2013, Dr. Ashley Singh, who was finance minister then as well, made this commitment to Trinidad that we're willing to make lands available for agriculture. I don't think the Trinidadians took that up. But then on the critique side, Guyanese jumped to say, well, we're making lands available to Trinidadian, what happened to Guyanese? My take is, we have enough land for everybody. And if we're going to achieve this goal, we have to share resources, because you and I were on a flight not so long ago where we flew over Trinidad. And it was amazing to see that you could literally see from the air, just about 15,000 feet, there about 20,000 feet, you could literally see an entire country in a cupboard by flying over it.
Yeah.
You can't fly over Guyana and see the whole of
know
Guyana.
available lands.
Right?
But it's not, I want to hit that one point, is as Guyanese, it's not something we should be afraid of. Actually, if somebody is given not given. Most lands are concessionable lands through lease. You pay lands to develop the black belly sheep or to develop some product of agriculture. Again, individually or collectively, we ask ourselves, how do we benefit from that? The fact that if the Trinidadians in a particular village were able to develop 10 or 50 acres of something, and I got my Canter truck, now I'm buying 5 Canter trucks because they're going to have to get that goods now from that farm to port or to market. So it's not something as Guyanese we should be afraid of. And I tell folks from our office, we're both responsible for foreign investment and we're responsible for local investment. And we're responsible for ensuring the local entities benefit from everything that the president does as his government. And we, is not giveaways, right? And just like a hotel, say the Trinidadians are, one of them are building one of the hotels. They're investing 35 plus million US dollars in building this hotel. Well, all the materials most likely will be bought in Guyana. A lot of workers will be hired in the pre-construction and the post-construction. The supply chain of bed sheets and toilet paper all has to happen within Guyana. So, wow, bring them more. Bring another $35 million worth of investment. Let's do it. We then have to figure out, I use the term again, where do you fit? Don't look at this as government giving away land and we ain't getting any. And if you can develop 10 acres tomorrow, and you come in with a proposal to Lands and Survey or GOINVEST that says, I've got the ability to develop 10, 50, 100 acres, that you have the same access.
Correct.
Right? So, yes.
And I have a different perspective using the same example. When the president said, when as a country we say we're making 25,000 hectares of land available to Trinidad, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're giving this to Trinidadians.
No.
What it means, we have to be shrewd enough as Guyanese and as Guyanese entrepreneurs and as Guyanese businessmen and whoever and those budding entrepreneurs, we have to be shrewd enough to understand what this really means. It means 25,000, just using this number, 25,000 hectares or acres of land being made available for Trinidadians. It means I, as a Guyanese entrepreneur, could now put together a proposal, right, to access 5,000 of that. This is what I'm bringing to the table. How do you form partnerships? You got to make synergies, bringing resources and capabilities and value together. So look, I as a Guyanese, I'm going to have access to 5,000 acres of land. But not just put in a proposal for the land, you have to also make some investments, incur some initial costs. Go to Trinidad and look for partners, look for people in agriculture. What do they have? They have the equipment, they have the know-how, they have the resources. We have the land. I'm going to bring the land. This is what I'm bringing to the table. Let me find a partner a farmer, a commercial farmer in Trinidad who needs more land. Let me find this guy. Go to the Trinidad Chamber of Commerce, find one such guy and start talking business with him. And this is the thing, and this is the purpose of this program, to educate. This is how we have to look at it's our perspective. I used to teach Dr. Ramsaroop. I used to teach. I don't have the time to teach now. I use these forums to use my teaching skills. But one popular examples I love to give in the classroom when I teach entrepreneurship is an example with DDL, where one time I read in fact the bio of the executive chairman, Mr. Komal Samaru, and he was sharing a story which I read as part of his bio. He was his career. He was the marketing executive for DDL many years ago. Today he's the executive chairman. And he wanted to know, as the marketing executive, why is it that Europe is their biggest market? They're doing well in Europe. But in the US, where we have a bigger diaspora, especially diaspora market, why are we not doing so well? And so what he did, he jumped on a plane, went to the US. They had an agent in the US that was paying an agent to do their marketing and so forth of the product, went to meet with the agent and went to visit these supermarkets where the DDL products are. And when he went, what do you think he found? He visited a sample of supermarkets where the DDL products were, and he found that the DDL products are on the top shelf, above where anybody could see it.
Yeah.
So when you go to buy, you look what is in front of you. That's the first thing you're going to buy. So all the other countries' product are in front of them, and DDL stuff is either way down at the back or at the top. And he said, listen, we got to change this. We need DDL stuff come down at the bottom and up in front. And so when that change was made, sales went up. Now that is a simple example of what it means to be an entrepreneur and to build a business. You have to invest time and money, and you gotta be prepared to work hard and be shrewd enough to see these opportunities. How can I make this into an opportunity for me?
Yeah, and we our office is also responsible for export promotion and helping with development of how to brand your products. And I met with a lot of the agro processors, young agro processors, and even something simple as the type of bottle. So when you go on a supermarket shelf in North America, if your bottles are all not the same standard, yes, you may end up at the top shelf because now it doesn't fit the shelf. What you're paying for is shelf space.
Right.
But with some fascinating things we are doing on the export side, I was in Trinidad, and one of the ladies from Guyana is selling pepper pot in a box. And she showed me the video of taking out the pepper pot in the box, putting it in the micro bowl, and you have beautiful pepper pot. And so, we've got to market a lot more some of our products.
Right.
And I was fascinated with that Guyana is able to sell pepper pot in a box.
Yeah, and another thing too, and this is education for Guyanese viewers or Guyanese brothers and sisters here, and jumping off from what you said, where do I fit? What are the opportunities? What do I have to do? We hear a lot of complaints, but also there's a lot of people not taking action. A lot of people just sitting and waiting for some sense of entitlement. It don't work like that. So, I give an example. The president and the vice president go to the diaspora and said, listen, go through the process, let the system work, put in your investment proposal to the GOINVEST, and so on. So you have people who want to come to invest in Guyana. And when you listen to their investment, and I could speak authoritatively for this because I do many of these proposals, investment proposals. And, they want to invest a $5 million investment, $5 million US or a $50 million US investment. But they don't want to spend $1,000 or $25,000 to incorporate a company or to get a feasibility study done. And so a few days ago, I was talking to somebody in the British Virgin Islands, and he was saying, look, I want to come to Guyana. I want to invest. What are the opportunities in the construction sector? I said, listen, and so he has to mobilize resources, mobilize investors to put money. Now, for them to make an informed decision, they need a feasibility study. They need a market study. I said the cost for this market feasibility study is X amount of dollars. So he wants to be convinced where are the opportunities. I said, listen, I did some calculations already. For the next 15 years, the infrastructure sector, if you are serious about coming and invest in Guyana, you got to be prepared to come and do the hard work and build from the bottom and build a sustainable. It means you mightn't make a profit in the first 2 years, but you have to be prepared 5 years to build a business. That's how you build an enterprise successfully. You've got to put in the work. And I said to him, with all the infrastructure needs of this country, and based on all the public infrastructure, when I take all of that and do an estimate based on cost, look at all the road infrastructure, bridges, sea defense, social infrastructure, school, hospital, then you have private infrastructure. My estimate is that the infrastructure sector is a $7 trillion Guyana dollar market. That's the need in the next 15 years. So you're talking about a $7 trillion or a $33 billion US dollar market opportunity, right? And what you need 10% of that, 3 billion US for you. But this is where you need to spend up front and do the work, right?
And that's a message for both the local and the diaspora especially. I tell them there's no need to see a minister. There's not a need even to see me. If you want to come into Guyana, you got to do your, as you said, your analysis, your feasibility. If you're in construction, as you said, construction is going to go like this. If you've got 50 trucks and road equipment, bring it in. The likelihood you're going to win a contract is fairly high. And so we got to get out of where folks feel that, and one person, Trinidad, asked me, how do I do business in Guyana? I said, it's no different than anywhere else in the world. You got to come in, you got to register a company. You got to have your business plan. You got to be able to have your financing, and you apply for your permits.
And you do your studies.
And you do, your working permits and your building permits, whatever it is. No difference anywhere in the world. You don't need to see a minister to do that.
Right.
And so we've got to move away from the cottage industry approach. We're going at a pace where, that businesses and individuals, and one of the things that I think that the president has really done an extremely good job in promoting and actually delivering is the consortium approach. When you can put and incentivize 5 competitors in the poultry industry that are competitors to come together to plant their own stock feed. Now, each of them are buying their own stock feed at market price, so none of them have any advantage over each other. Now, The only way they're going to compete now is they have to have efficient operations. They got to be able to lower costs through multiple other components, and then they can compete. But ultimately now they can figure out how to grow the industry, because the poultry industry, we're barely surviving internal domestic use. To become a net exporter now, they now have an opportunity to become the net exporter of poultry. So as examples like that, even when I go into some of the villages in Region 1 and Region 9, is the same approach. We are a smaller society. Access to capital is difficult for the individuals. But again, I met with Visit Rupununi yesterday, and I told them if they can put 3 eco potential providers together in Shelton or wherever they may, then they're coming with one product. It may be 3 different lodges you go to, but one lodge could be birds and one lodge could be fishing, but they come together as one package, gets the incentives, find an investor, and then they're off the ground and running. But if they individually try to build one room at a time, and it's very difficult to market. So I think the approach the president has pushed in marketing Guyana to the wider world, we need to look at that, marketing our own individual products, combining it with each other, and then you probably have better access to capital.
Absolutely. And then you talk about the LATAM example, once you understand business and you understand the market environment in which you operate, each market is different. You got to take into consideration so many different things, the market behavior, consumer behavior, the bureaucracy that you have to deal with in business. It takes time to achieve these development. So we got to be able to see where tangible commitments are being made on the part of the government. So, for example, there has been talk about this road connecting Brazil through LATAM, right? For a long time. We know now that commitment is becoming a reality.
Yeah, we have 121 kilometers already started to Mabura.
There you go. So that has already started. So we got to see into the future. So the investment to give you the return 5-10 years from now, you got to build the foundation from now. So now you got to start looking at LATAM, for example, in a strategic way. That road means you're going to have thousands of acres of land going to open up for agriculture, commercial purposes, residential, so many different things. Now, you have to start looking at that region, the LATAM Rupununi corridor, strategically. This is going to happen for sure. What are the investments I need to do now to do this?
I mean, a smaller example, just this last 2 weeks, it was announced that British Airways will fly to Guyana. brilliant. I mean, I was with the president, the High Commissioner, and Minister Waldron in England when the conversation first started, just mere months ago, and it's already been delivered. Now, we are big in ecotourism. We are the number one ecotourism destination. We are building this new product, the sand and jungle. Now, if I'm in ecotourism, what did the British Airways announcement mean to me? So now a British tourist or European tourist goes to St. Lucia, because that's where the plane will stop. They're going to spend 10 days on the beach in St. Lucia and then go back, right? So the plane lands on Thursday or Tuesday into St. Lucia, and it's going back to England on Thursday, the next Thursday. So what if now I create my product just for the St. Lucia? I got to find our partner in St. Lucia. Hi, what if I jump on the plane on Tuesday to Guyana, and then Thursday I'm going all the way back to London, but I got Tuesday night and Wednesday night in the jungles in Guyana. So an operator should see that right away, go, I got to figure out a product. I got to figure out how do I attract these British people in St. Lucia now to come to Guyana.
Right.
I got to find a local partner in St. Lucia. I got to look at a travel agency. I've got to start advertising my product in the British magazine, whatever it may be. And suddenly you start attracting a large number coming in. So you can't sit back and wait and think, well, we're going to attract the tourists by ourselves. You have to be very proactive, going back to where you fit. So that announcement of British Airways flying into Guyana next year should propel multiple large providers to start thinking differently. I want piece of that market from St. Lucia to be in Guyana, even if I only get 2 days. Right? If I get a plane load, the plane could hold 300 people. If I can get a plane load of people into Guyana, out to that St. Lucia market, what do I need to get that? Are my facilities up to standard? Do I meet the international standards? Is it in a safe environment? Whatever it is, my marketing product right? And then, you talk about the bigger example of the road to Brazil. Right, you're right. I mean, the amount of gas stations and warehouses and refrigeration zones and truck repairs, it's estimated in the thousands of 18-wheeler trucks, if it's by road or rail, will come through Guyana. Right, that visit that President Ali did to Roraima is no second-guessing visit. It's a visit that actually puts this plan into reality, because northern Brazil needs Guyana. So we get to sit back and benefit from that need, but then we get to open up our eyes, the access to land, new lands. Now I want to, I want to franchise. I mean, I want 15 gas stations, right? Or, hotels and food. And I even told folks in Linden, a lot of folks in Linden complaining, want more work. I said, 121 miles of road being built, kilometers being built. Did you think of how those workers got to get fed? Right? If you just have a canter truck and a food truck, or you start providing just the water, you've got to go position yourself now to be part of that process. And one thing I want to make, especially in Region 10, we opened a call center the other day where the provider planned to hire close to 200 people. And he did get up to maybe 150, 160. And then whether it was infiltration by the opposition, whether it was lack of, the numbers are starting to go down. And I met with the leadership in Region 10, and I said, why would you not do everything in your power to ensure this operation is successful? It's 200 people would have jobs, making $80,000 to $100,000 a month. Why are you infiltrating to make the government look bad because now the guy can't keep his clients because you are torpedoing his business? And no good answer. So I want individuals watching this. The economics of Guyana should supersede your politics. you must benefit. Don't let any opposition person tell you, don't take anything the government has. Don't be part of it. Don't take the job. Because ultimately, it is ours. Guyana is ours. Every one of us. That's, I get excited whenever I talk about one Guyana presidentship. He is absolutely serious about all of Guyana getting a piece of what he is pushing. And I really, Joel, if I can leave anything with your viewers, is that they have to wake up and they should think, where do I fit? I want to be part of Guyana's development. I don't want to be part of PPP or PNC or whatever. Your objective is to be part of Guyana's development and join the president's program.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Dr. Ramsaroop. That is the question. You see, the brain work in a systematic way. What you ask the brain, that's how the brain will be programmed to think. So if you're thinking and asking negative questions, oh, we're giving away lands, there is no opportunity for Guyanese, then the brain would not see this opportunity. But if you ask the brain, okay, what does this mean for me? How do I fit in? And then you will see naturally the answers will start to flow. And this happened to me many times when I teach or when I'm having a conversation with my wife. I don't know, many times, people, students ask me questions. And to tell you the truth, I don't know the answer. But then I've been teaching for a long time, and I would ask myself the question whilst articulating. I have no clue what is the answer, but as I begin to ask the question, the answers start to flow. And that's how the brain works. So we got to start to change our thinking, our mindset, asking the right questions. Where do I fit in? How can I benefit from this? And if, one thing that is absolutely certain that we have to do is we have to invest in ourselves. We have to improve ourselves. If we want to improve our lives, we have to invest in our own education, in our own knowledge. And there's so many programs,
Yeah, the gold program, the 20,000 scholarship, we're going to do the Technical Institute for Hospitality. There's so many jobs coming available, and you got to prepare yourself. The wealth of Guyanese is going to happen. Right? And if you didn't get piece of the pie, you got to look inwards and go, I didn't do something. Because the government has put every program in place in order for everybody to benefit. And it's important now because the pace of Guyana, and I tell you, I travel with our president, my president, and it's a man of energy, ideas, implementation, measurable plans. It's exciting to sit next to him and see how he deals with the private sector, how he deals with his counterpart in leadership around CARICOM, how he positions Guyana of the future and of today. And, we can all look and say, we've got a leader that understands economics, understands the politics, understands regional integration, understand that Guyana is now a global player, right? We're no ordinary little country, backward country. We're a global player. The fact that, people asked me when Saudi Arabia landed the other day with their Royal Jet 80 Saudi Arabia people flew into Guyana, unheard of.
Right.
And the folks have realized that Guyana is a global leader. Food security, the access to fresh water, right? And none of this is about oil and gas, right? The gas will come into shore in the near future, reduce our energy costs down. That's another one, Joel. That's a stimulant. If I am in agriculture and I'm a farmer out there and I hear the word cheaper energy, I got to figure out now, do I sell my Bora or my okra still, or my pineapples as a raw material? Or should I start looking at an investor or a partnership or a developer to go into agro-processing? So the one pineapple could go for $500, but 5 cans can go for $2,000. So, but you got to start thinking from now.
Correct.
So soon you hear this cheaper energy, You figure out where you fit. Light manufacturing. And ultimately, I believe Guyana going to have an explosive year in 24, where ideas such as the silica sand to glass, the bauxite to alumina, a gold refinery, suddenly becomes a
A
reality,
reality. Yeah.
right? So we may be looking at, wow, we're getting 12 lifts this year, we're making some dollars, we're putting a lot of money in the roads and schools and hospitals. But at the end of the day, the future of Guyana is bright, bright, bright. And we have to all hold hands almost and join our president in ensuring that we can deliver this wealth back to us. He's not looking for wealth for himself, right? That says his measurement of success at 2025 did our prosperity index grow. But you can't complain that you didn't get it if you sit back and
Correct.
blame others.
So, we have a few minutes remaining, and I like how this conversation flow, because there is a hidden message in what we're saying. The hidden message, what we're saying, in put it simply, it's to the private sector and to the Guyanese people. What do we have to do to be part of this transformation? How could we? Because we got to think of that statement in the context of the president himself making a charge to the private sector. He said, I believe right in Trinidad, he said that if the private sector is not going to do it, well, then we're going to have to bring foreign investors in, right? So he is literally challenging the private sector to step up. Stop complain. Yes, there are challenges, but stop complaining and stop whining, and think innovative, think creative, think taking risk. I had this conversation a few days ago. Traditionally, businesses in Guyana, and this is fact, they don't like to invest in three areas. They don't like to invest in research and development. They don't like to invest in entrepreneurship, invest in their staff, um, stimulating innovative thinking, creative ideas, right? And they don't like to invest in making intangible investments for their business. So how would you grow? How would you become a multinational? Are you going to be comfortable with making $100 million or $10 million every year and think you're rich? The Saudis definitely, when they come here, when we think we're rich, the richest man in Ghana think he's rich, compared to the Saudis, we're very, very poor.
Yeah.
So how do we build multinationals?
And I think if you look at the president's vision of where his transformative agenda is going, and you start just quickly at the foundation, it's built on democracy, 100% democracy. Nothing will happen like 2020 election again. We proved that democracy is our foundation, accountability and transparency. So you have this foundation being built where, we want global partnerships, we want to increase our competitiveness, we want to build our global sectors. And then you look at the pillars being tourism. If tourism, we're going to lead the charge of the sand and jungle product that we're pushing. You move to agriculture, you've got large-scale plantation farming, you've got agro-processing, you've got dairy plants that are starting to pop up. We import 50 million, I think, or so, U.S. worth of milk in those boxes. It's ridiculous. Much as I went to Trinidad and they had the same box milk. Imagine we should be producing
Right.
dairy plants. So you got the agriculture, you got the mining sector, you've got the other sectors, the manufacturing sectors brewing coming up. Again, so you can see this foundation, you can see this pillar, you got a leadership vision, bold leader of our president, a man of his convictions, got the courage to make tough decisions. And in this house, or this framework, you've got a government willing to put the incentives in place, tax incentives, ultimately wages are going up, minimum wages up. Next year, I'm sure we'll see a good 2023 budget. I'm excited about that. I can dream what it should look like. And again, from private sector, business, foreigners, local, the framework of the president. It's wide, visible. He speaks it every day. He's doing it every day. Again, which pillar are you part of?
Dr. Ramsaroop, we're out of time, so quickly in 10 seconds, your closing comments to the private sector and to the Guyanese in general.
Don't be left behind. Join the president's platform of the One Guyana. Look at it from all angles: individual, business, social. Bringing our people together, and if you can figure out all of those components, you are a team member going to be part of Guyana's history in making us the leading country in this region, a global leader. And with folks, when folks talk about Guyana, they can say leadership, people, and ideas are together, and we are all making this country one Guyana for the betterness of all of us.
Dr. Ramsaroop, thank you for accepting my invitation on short notice. This is not your first. I'm going to invite you again in the future, very soon perhaps. So thank you once again. Thank you, our viewers. Have a good evening, good night, and join me again next week.